Hi everyone, my name is Dennis Maynard. I am a senior here at ASU and preparing for graduation. Today we're going to take a look at the Boeing 737 MAX case study, the risks associated with the project, and potential solutions that could have alleviated some of the disastrous outcomes. First, let's get a sense of the project and how it came about. The 737 was originally designed in the 1960s as a regional carrier. Its primary competition is made by Airbus. In 2010, Airbus announced that it had developed a new upgraded version of its Airbus A320neo. NEO stands for New Engine Option. The plane boasted 6% better fuel mileage than other models on the market at that time. This caught Boeing by surprise and would have meant a real market share loss for 10 years in one of its legacy businesses. The single-aisle airplane market is worth about $35 billion. There was a real decision point at which Boeing could either develop a new plane or revamp the existing platform. If they designed a new plane, it would have meant a longer timeline, more expensive, market share loss, and the FAA certification process would have taken longer. If Boeing chose to revamp the existing platform, they would have seen cost savings and a shorter timeline. Specifically, the FAA limits the number of changes that can be made to an existing certification. Due to the limited number of changes, Boeing would have saved millions of dollars in design and certification costs. The larger engines selected were the LEAP-1Bs, which boasted an 8% fuel efficiency, surpassing the Airbus. Because pilots were already trained on how to fly the 737s and had flown them for decades, the training required to fly the new plane would be reduced as well. The design schedule would be reduced potentially from 8 years to as little as 6 years for the delivery of the units. By revamping the existing platform, Boeing could maintain market share, be cost efficient, and offer cost savings to clients. This was a win-win in Boeing's mind and chose to do exactly that. In fact, it was successful at first, exceeding sales projections and logged thousands of flight hours per day. Unfortunately, there was a fatal flaw with the 737 MAX. The MCAS, or Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, was prone to repeatedly pushing the nose of the plane forward due to sensor and software failures. This cost the lives of 346 people on Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines. The plane was grounded around the world until the problem was identified and fixed. Let's take a few minutes to identify the risks associated with the project. The design development of the aircraft added larger engines utilizing the LEAP-1Bs. Because the engines were larger than the previous ones, there was only about 18 inches of clearance above the runway. To solve this problem, the engines were placed higher and forward from their original positions. The larger engines would produce more lift as well. If the plane's nose pointed upward for too long of a period of time, the engines could potentially stall from increased lift. This angle is known as a high angle of attack, or AOA. To fix this potential problem, the engineers added a MCAS, or Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. It is a software designed to prevent stalls and a horizontal stabilizer. The original software would cause the nose to adjust by 0.6 degrees. It was later changed to 2.5 degrees, a larger angle. Through congressional inquiry, it was discovered that the slow-speed flight tests prior to certification had failed. The Boeing test pilot had trouble completing a slow speeds test needed for certification because MCAS kept kicking in. In a later communication between engineers, what happens when we have a faulty angle of attack? The root cause of the MCAS problem was a sensor failure. The sensors sit on the nose of the plane and measure the current AOA. The system was operating on one sensor only. This meant that there was no redundancy in the system. In addition, sensor alert buttons were provided in the cockpit at an additional cost, one that larger airlines opted for and smaller ones didn't. Last, the original software had a trigger on it that required high G forces to activate. This was removed for greater functionality prior to delivery of the aircraft to market. The result was that the MCAS would kick in and push the nose down. Pilots would correct, and then the problem would repeat itself until the plane crashed. Furthermore, the MCAS was not mentioned in the FAA certification of the aircraft. The FAA had kicked back oversight to Boeing engineers who would report to the FAA. In other words, there was no independent oversight of the development of the aircraft. Boeing had failed to inform. Through congressional inquiry, much of senior management had lack of knowledge of some of the changes being made to the system. There was no real identification of the threat as it was not fully tested new system. Furthermore, the MCAS was removed from the pilot flight manuals and was not included in the training. As we look at risk solutions, we can start with the design solutions to fix the problem. Reinstating the high G-force trigger would cause the system not to activate unless certain criteria exist. Next, it should also require double sensor verification. The MCAS will not trigger if the two sensors disagree. This is one of the implemented solutions currently. Next, the MCAS should have a limited ability to control the aircraft. Previous systems will release control of the aircraft if the pilot takes control of the stick. In addition, the MCAS should not reactivate repeatedly. One warning should be enough to warn the pilots. Last, the angle of attack correction should be reduced to 0.6 degrees. Risk management is the process of identifying risks to the project that are important to the stakeholders and the organization. There should have been rigorous testing of all new systems. Through documentation, there should have been a risk identification feedback loop which would draw attention to the new issues. This also includes independent oversight or audits from the FAA with proper documentation. Last, proper training is imperative for risk management. There is one more consideration. The KC-46A Pegasus, based on the Boeing 767 developed for the Air Force, already had a robust MCAS system in place. It involves multiple sensors, intervenes less, and is not repetitive, giving priority control to pilots. The system actually uses more than two sensors. In addition, this was a similar design problem due to lift created by additional fuel tanks added to the wings of the Pegasus. Boeing has been one of the chief leaders in the world of project and risk management. Their ability to evolve over time, creating cutting-edge technology, does lead to wonder why they didn't advance existing systems when readily available. Many of the errors would have been caught if there was a full documentation and communication across development. A risk feedback loop would have brought awareness to small problems that could have prevented the bigger ones. The 737 platform has been flying for over 50 years. The problem should have been caught at the very minimum during the slow flight test. I hope that you enjoyed my analysis of the 737 MAX, and hopefully this will not be a mistake that Boeing makes again.